Okay, hello guys, and welcome to another episode of the Instahyre Roundtable. Today we have a very pertinent topic, which is regarding data overload. When does analytics in recruiting become invasive? So we have two senior leaders, senior folks from Flipkart. Let me introduce to you Sumit Premi. Sumit Premi is the director of talent acquisition at Flipkart. Hi Sumit, thank you for taking time out and joining us.
Hey Sarabjit, hi. Thanks for inviting. Good to be here. And the topic which is very close to, especially every TA person's heart, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say, when I put it there as well, without data, you are just a person with an opinion. But
Yes.
how much data is too much data is what we will be discussing today.
Great. So, welcome, Sumit. And we have Ishmeet Garg. Ishmeet Dang is the head of employer branding at Flipkart. So, hey, Ishmeet, thank you for taking time out joining us. Welcome to the roundtable.
Hey folks, hey, hi everyone. Great to be here. Along with Sumit, I'll also drop one line, that our mothers would usually say, which is too much of anything is bad. Does that apply to data as well? So we'll see.
Great. Okay, so let's start off. So we'll start off with the first question, and which is my favorite question, and we'll go start with Sumit first. Then we go to Ishmeet. So Sumit, tell us about your journey from childhood to becoming a talent acquisition expert, and where are you from, and how did you reach where you are? So a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, sure. See, I'll skip the childhood part. It'll take full day. A lot of stories around. So I'm from Punjab. That's where I was born and brought up. Ludhiana in Punjab. I'll start with my engineering. I did my engineering in Punjab itself in electronics and communication. I always say I was an engineer, but that 3 Idiots thing, no, I was not a good engineer. Luckily, I landed up in a placement with Tech Mahindra. How did this love affair with recruitment start? It actually started during engineering days only, wherein I never aspired to get into HR field. Of course, I had taken up engineering as we'll do coding and all of that back in 2007 and 8. I remember my first interview was with Infosys. From my college, only 10, 12 candidates got selected for the further rounds. So I cleared 1-2 rounds. And then there was the HR round, wherein it was like you'd speak in good English and all of that. And I was fairly confident on my communication skills, not overconfident, but fairly. Everything happens. I go through the interview round. And when the results come, everybody, my batch was very confident. Sumit, tera ho jayega. You speak good English and it is HR round only. Why do you have to worry? Results come, finally, I do not get selected. I was like, yeah, what did he check? So that is where the curiosity began. Okay. My first encounter with an HR recruiter, that is where the curiosity began. I got placed in my second organization, which is Tech Mahindra. But since as God has its own plans, recession came and my joining got postponed. With all of that, I said, what do I do? I took up a job in Chandigarh, any job which was there, just to wait, so that I did not want to be dependent on my parents for money and all of that. I say, I'll get my own pocket money. My engineering is over now. So it was a KPO sort of an atmosphere. I joined there. While there was a KPO role, the work was not much there. And that is where the HR over there reached out, can I help her in recruitment coordination? So she made me do coordination, and she taught me how to do sourcing on Naukri as well. Okay. That is where I got to know, okay, this is how you select candidates. I used to ask her, okay, what do you ask in HR rounds? I got rejected in one, I got selected in another. I answered almost same questions. How do you judge and all of that? That is where that thing even got stronger in my head. Okay. I need to do this. Recession was continuing. The joining was getting delayed. 7-8 months passed. My father called me one day. He said, Sumit, why don't you go and do MBA? Very casually. Typical peak Punjab attitude is like, my friend's son has done MBA from XYZ college. He's earning decent. You also do that. Like, okay, let's do that. No interest and all of that. I said, I'll do. I appeared for a couple of exams. Engineers usually are decent at maths and all of that. With all these aptitude practice, I was able to get good score. Now that is where the scores came. They were decent. One thing was very clear in my head. I wanted to go into HR.
Okay.
maybe the first impression and what I did in my stint in Chandigarh, that recruitment, I was like, I need to learn how this goes into detail and depth. Plus, HRs always have a fancy job. I'll be very candid with the audience. I want to do this. Everybody respects, everybody's like looking up to you and all of that. So I did my MBA in HR from Pune. After that, my first job was TCS.
Okay.
They say, you manifest certain things so much and it happens to you. And I strongly believe in manifestation. So after my boot camp of around 15 days in Trivandrum, they were allocating roles.
Okay.
And what role came to me was TA.
Acha.
And it came to me, right? And I was like, kya karna hai? And I was very happy. I got Delhi as my location. So I like, the God is listening. So that's how the journey started. TCS, big name, brand Tata, of course. My first role stint during my management trainee stint was of a campus recruiter. So it was like you had to hit the ground running. I joined in July. That is where the campus season begins. I was sent to campuses along with the team, of course, and that experience changed my life.
Okay.
Suddenly, from being on the other side, I was on the other side. Right? And it was like the glamorous job. I still remember my first campus. I got out of a train in Pune, and there were TPOs and kids waiting with garland, mala pehnai. I was like, what the hell is happening with me? So these are all the fancy things that happen, right? And you look back and you say, okay, this is what happens. Now that is where I started getting into details of TA. And after my campus stint, I moved to the lateral hiring part of it, wherein I did a recruiter role, and then I was elevated to a sourcing lead. It is very important in recruitment, you have your hands on everything. You just cannot be so I moved on to the sourcing thing. Then again with TCS, I hope I am not taking much time. I'll complete it in 1 or 2 minutes. So since the journey is important, right? I'm sure if the listeners are there, they would be going through somewhat similar phase and all of that. So my HR head said, now you have done TA for like good 3-4 years. If you have to go abroad, on site and all of that, why don't you experience HRBP? Because you are not in HR if you have not done an HRBP stint. I said, why not? So that is where I moved to HRBP. I did HRBP in TCS for 1 year. And then I was at a juncture of my career, wedding. Then I had to make a choice if I have to go abroad or do I have to stay here? If yes, continue here and all of that. I was very clear, and that's where I spoke to myself. I mean, while I was enjoying HRBP, but my calling had been TA. I like, no, I want to do TA. If I do again in TCS, I've already sort of experienced it. That is where I switched to KPMG in a TA role.
Okay.
So it was more of now it was like more of industry thing. So I switched to KPMG. It was a talent acquisition role, different industry, different. I used to think, yaar, काफी कुछ आता है मुझे. The moment I joined KPMG, I was like, I don't even know 5% of recruitment. The moment you switch the industry, it is like a different ball game altogether. The brand is different, candidates are different, talent supply, talent pool, everything is different. So KPMG was my second stint, and then I was in Delhi NCR till then. Me and my wife, we thought of relocating, exploring Bangalore. That is where Samsung research happened to me. Again, a different industry and Bangalore. So I used to visit Bangalore quite a lot during my KPMG stint. That is where I fell in love with the city. वो कहते हैं ना Bangalore में कुछ भी है मौसम अच्छा है, which is not the case anymore, but still it is there. I mean, I love the vibe of the place. It is different. It is clearly very different. And then I got an opportunity to work in Bangalore. Again, it was a campus, more of a stint because they were into IIT hiring and all of that.
Okay.
So plus some bits and pieces of other lateral hiring and all. So started that, very happy with Samsung, very good culture. Then I get a call from Flipkart for a job. Honestly, I was not looking out. I had no reason to look out because I was happy. Samsung had given me enough opportunity, flexibility, whatever I've asked for. Then I visited Flipkart office. then I experienced that place. I mean, my first line to my panel was, "Why is this place vibrating? There was so much of energy at the campus." Then I spoke to, again, the panelists. There were 4 leaders who turned out to be my manager. One of them is my current manager as well. But the entire vibe of the place and what was told to me was, there is a problem statement. You come and solve this problem statement. And that is where I was like, I want to work here. And I had no reason to that question. Why am I looking for a change and all of that? And when I was telling my Samsung folks I'm leaving, they're saying, why are you leaving? My answers were like clear, not clear, and all of that. But that's where Flipkart happened. Flipkart journey has been great. I've done a couple of roles here. That is one of our pillars of EVP, as we say. It is experiment, learn, and grow. If you tell me, I've actually lived it. In terms of in my career, I started off heading university relations. Then I started heading the non-tech, which is HR hiring. Then I became the HR BP lead, as I done an HR BP earlier for 2 of the business verticals in tech. Currently, I mean, it's been quite some time now, I'm heading TA for tech and product at Flipkart. Currently, very happy. It's been almost 5 years in Flipkart. The kind of opportunities I've got, and I have been chasing TA. TA has been chasing. So the love affair has been both ways. I'm happy so far. I hope it continues. So this is my journey into TA. I hope I did not bore the audience, but yeah, that's how.
Lovely to hear from you, Sumit. Great ups and downs, and what a great story. So let's go to Ishmeet. Ishmeet, tell us about your journey from childhood to becoming what you are now, like talent acquisition, employer branding, and where are you from and how you reach where you are. And I think Ishmeet was very happy when Sumit was telling about the vibe of the place. Like, it's a win for employer branding.
Yeah, absolutely. Also mentioned one of the EVP pillars. So fantastic. Got the job done. So yeah, I mean, I was going to start with the fact that I'm not a talent acquisition expert. I am an employer branding expert, so to speak. But it's a function that works hand in hand with talent acquisition, and you get to learn a lot about the field as you kind of go along with it. So my story, funnily enough, also started in Punjab, right? So growing up, I was the son of 2 teachers, right? So academics was a mainstay in the household. Used to study, spend most of my time studying. And like any good Indian child, dream was to become an engineer, right? Both me and my parents. But somewhere down the line, I decided, no, that's not where this is going to go. So just like any other good person, did 10th, non-medical, 12th, gave my engineering exams, did extremely badly. Could not tell whether my rank was my roll number or an actual rank, right? So all of those things happened. Ended up doing BCA because there was a love for technology and a love for computers in general, but a really inability to do anything related to maths, right? So that's kind of where I ended up. Just one second. Yeah, sorry about that. So I ended up doing a BCA. After that was trying to figure out what to do with life, right? Calling did not come very, very naturally. One thing that I knew from a very early part of my life was that one thing that I loved doing was writing and telling stories, essentially. So that was the common theme in anything and everything that I was trying to do. So I used to write a blog, where I would put in my personal thoughts and experiences. Did not get much views. Somehow I ended up making one post about Indian Idol, got a lot of views, right? That's where the analytics journey or data journey essentially starts. You talk about what people want to hear, not always about what you want to talk about.
Yes.
Did that for a bit. I was always interested in marketing, so decided to pursue an MBA in marketing, of course, with HR as one of my minors because I always thought that I was a people person and I enjoyed stories of people. So I thought, I have to take some minor, might as well be this. Operations will again be maths, not going to do that. So ended up there. Uh, did my MBA, joined Wipro in a pre-sales consulting sort of a role. So making decks essentially, and making documents, submitting RFPs and so on and so forth. Did that live for a couple of years. That brought me to an interesting part of life where I joined an agency, right, a digital marketing agency as one of their first members. This was started by my batchmate from college, incidentally. And I was doing all sorts of roles there. In an agency, you learn ownership, right? You do everything from cleaning the floor to making the biggest pitch and everything. Lived that life for 4 years. We went from being about 10 people to about more than 500 now, with offices in 4 different cities and so on and so forth. Had a great time there, and this is essentially where I discovered employer branding as a field for the first time. Because of that time, we got the opportunity to work with one of the leading retail companies in India to build their employer brand, or to tell their employer brand story essentially on digital media. And as I told you, connecting back to the love of telling stories is where I got into understanding this field a little bit more. Now, by this time, and also today, the marketing world is very number oriented. Even for Flipkart, right? Ads are more about making sure that I know the shoe that you want to buy and showing you that shoe, instead of showing you a really emotional advertisement. So it was becoming a lot of numbers, and I was feeling that, this is not my calling. I like to tell stories, not necessarily, have it affected by numbers. Employer branding, I found, was one field where there was still an opportunity to tell a lot of people's stories without, the very big focus on numbers, which of course has changed over the last 5 years. But that's fine as well. So did that for about 4 years. Ended up at Flipkart to lead, as a member of the employer branding team here. Actually, over 5 years, it's been a journey and a half. So. Worked here, created the EVP for the organization, thankfully, where Sumit mentioned one of the pillars, it's kind of here or here. Together we dare to maximize, it's called. Built that, felt very happy about it. And now leading that same team that I had joined 5 years ago, and working closely with Sumit, in fact, on campaigns, on talent acquisition, on data overload, and all of those things as well. So that's been the journey.
Lovely to hear from you, Ishmeet. So move on to the next question. This is for you, Ishmeet. So what are the potential risks, do you think, that for candidate privacy when leveraging extensive analytics, and how can they be mitigated?
Yeah. So before I get into the risks, right, let's just take our day-to-day journey as an example. When was the last time, for example, you downloaded an app and you actually read through what the service agreement was? When was the last time, if I take you back to childhood, you are installing your favorite computer game and there is a huge license and you just click accept, right? Data is extremely loose nowadays. We do not even realize most times what we are sharing, what purpose is it going to be used for. You get thousands of spam calls a day. All of that happens to everyone, not just to candidates, right? Similarly, however, at the same time, also we live in a world that wants personalization, that wants customization. I want everything that I see should be tuned to me, which is where, you then need to share that data. So that conundrum always exists, and it's a personal choice on how much do I want to personalize versus how much, do I want to protect myself from data, right? Coming specifically to potential risks, right? I think the first thing that organizations must think about, or that candidates also must think about, is what and how much data am I sharing, right? Okay. Is the data that is being collected by the organization, is it something that can even be used for a recruitment decision, right? So it's fine if you ask my name, it's fine if you ask my age, my experience. But, in the last few years, you would have also heard that, stalking candidates on social media or asking for your Facebook or Instagram handle is a thing, right? But even organizations and candidates should also ask themselves, why am I sharing that degree of personal information with an organization? It's in very rare cases would I find your social media or your opinions to be a reason for which I may not, decide to hire you. So that's one potential risk, which is over collection of data, essentially. Just asking you everything under the sun.
Yeah.
That's something that organizations should be wary of, candidates can be wary of. The second potential risk essentially is the security of the data that you are sharing. So, in organizations in the US or in Europe, for example, GDPR laws are very, very strict. So the data that is being collected is very safely stored. In India, however, those laws are not that stringent. So any and all data that you may share with an organization, there is a potential, that in a possible data breach, that data goes into the world, and then what would you do about that? So that's another risk for you. Another risk essentially is biases, right? People or your recruiter or someone who's interviewing you may get biased through the data that you are collecting, and even AI, right? So we talk a lot about AI in recruitment nowadays, how AI models can be used to take unbiased decisions on candidates. However, one important thing to then remember over there is that an AI model is as biased as the person that's making it, or it's as biased as the data that it is being trained on, right? So again, that's somewhere that where your data may take you in a wrong place. The AI model may just get biased against you, and give a wrong decision that may not be right for your career. Another one that I could think of probably is with the data that you are sharing for an organization, a lot of times there is a lack of transparency on how it's being used at all, right? So they may not tell you, how am I using this data to take a decision on your candidature? I think those are all essentially some risks that I can think of with the data overload, or with oversharing of data, or with candidate data. And the mitigations are pretty much in the same area as well, right? So if it's over collection of data, don't. If it's a security risk, go for organizations that take care of security better. Similarly, on transparency and misuse of data, so that'd be my answer for that.
Great. Great answer. I think the valid points we have covered is the amount of data we are sharing, and the purpose of the data, and obviously the security of the data. So, Sumit, I want to ask you, what, according to you, are growing concerns about the transparency and fairness of the AI systems? Like, we use a lot of intelligence in our day-to-day life, and with like ChatGPT coming in, we use a lot, much more than we were using a couple of years back. So, what, according to you, are growing concerns about the transparency and fairness of AI systems to streamline candidate sourcing?
Okay. See, last year, right? 1 year, I think this is the discussion number nth where it is about AI in recruitment. Everybody talks about it. I myself, a TA professional. How many of us are actually using AI for recruitment? The reality is, are we dependent on AI to hire for us? Answer is no. We are saying this. Maybe it is a North Star. Maybe you may want to make the role of a recruiter redundant. AI will do everything and all of that. The reality, Sarabjit, is AI is not a selector. It is an eliminator. That's how AI is being used rightly. Your platform, Instahyre itself, right? You will give me relevant profiles.
Yeah.
Now, what is artificial intelligence? You replace a human mind and machine does that for you. I will tell the machine, give me Java candidates with 6+ years of experience, and I want this pedigree, or maybe I want this relevant experience or projects. The machine, they will look at the pattern, they will eliminate the ones which do not fit. Will I tell Instahyre, give me 4 CVs which I'll directly interview? No, I will not trust that. Now, that is where the concern is. While we are talking over there, my favorite this thing is we are living in a coder's world, right? Ishmeet also touched upon. We are seeing what we are being made to see. there are a lot of biases in the system because your AI is dependent on historical data, right? I mean, I have my son, right? And I correlate machine learning, how I have seen my son grow. He's 6 years now. What I've been doing with my son? Machine learning. I'm feeding data into him, and now his entire perception is what data has been fed into him. That is how he looks up to everything. Now, when it comes to AI in candidate sourcing, how do you eliminate that? If let's say Instahyre puts, or let's say we put a job post on my portal, I'm hiring for a software engineer, or let's say a data engineer. In the span of, let's say, 3 days, I will get 3-digit applicants. Is it human for any of my recruiter to look at all those profiles? I put in the right filters, right keywords over there. I will get XYZ profiles because even the candidates know the hack. They know the keywords, how to get their profile at rest. They will write all those fancy things in their keylines and all of that. So the concern is not AI taking over us. It is about asking the right questions. With the supply and demand gap in India, Sarabjit, AI will never take over. And AI, at least for next year and a half, will continue. And that's my perspective, right? Everybody can have their own perspectives. Will continue to play the role of an eliminator. That is what will be very important. And coming to data, a lot of data is there, right? And how it leads to transparency is something you can never be transparent. It is a black box. Will a candidate calls me and says, why was my profile not shortlisted? I have all the skills. I'll say, sorry, boss, the system did not. Will I be able to give anybody a concrete answer? No.
Yes.
You can tell him that this was the keyword. They'll say, no, your JD put this keyword. So it is an endless debate. How will you train your systems and your recruiters and your stakeholders? Which plays a very important role. Transparency will come, but with the supply demand gap, we will never be able to reach a transparent stage.
Okay.
The second part of it was the fairness bit, right? A machine is dependent on historical data and somebody who's coding it. By default, the bias will get into the system. That is where the recruiters come into picture. It double clicks on my point. I'm not selecting, I'm eliminating the profiles. I cannot risk my selection on a system which might have a bias. So those are the things. So you have to train your system in a very beautiful way and you have to educate. We cannot blindfoldedly depend on AI for our hiring, especially in sourcing. Sourcing has made lives easy for candidates as well, because earlier what used to happen was there were every search engine, right? They have a different algorithm. What would come in the top, what would come in the bottom. With AI, with the features we are getting, right? What all our specifications are we looking for in a candidate? Those things have started coming up. More than the recruiter, you check a survey with candidates, the number of calls the relevant candidates are getting have increased. Because somewhere it is hitting the bullseye. It is not 100% foolproof, but that is where AI and all of that. So fairness and transparency, they are moonshots. With the supply, you look at our job portals. I mean, there are lakhs of applicants which are there. Are all lakh relevant? Trust me, no.
Okay.
This is a solve we are working towards. So that would be my take on that, Sarabjit.
Okay. Continuing with you, Sumit. So I have another question. From your experience, what has been the most surprising impact of advanced analytics on recruiting practices?
Okay, interesting, right? Now, there has been a lot of discussion and how it has enabled, right? So for me, I mean, I go back 5 years back. Any meeting with a business leader, like, give me mapping, give me insights. What is industry doing, right? That is what everybody would come and ask me. I will tell my team, okay, call your peers in other companies, check what is their skills, how are they hiring, what are they doing, and all of that. There's a lot of manual thing coming up. Suddenly, LinkedIn happens to us, right? Of course, LinkedIn on the other side is just a networking platform, but there is a tool called LinkedIn Insights. Now, if I need anything, a company report, a talent mapping report, a talent pool report in a specific geography and whatnot, LinkedIn will give me in 4 clicks. That for me is the biggest, because it has saved a lot of time of this calling and all of that. Because anyhow, it is a secondary research. You're calling your peer or somebody known and getting that data. You are doing the secondary research directly over there as well. That is very important. Other is your prediction models, right? Now, in TA space and in HR space, there are prediction models which have come up. The probability of candidate selecting your offer, the probability candidate is looking out. Now, when it comes to external market, the data is limited. Even the search portals give you that. See, be it Naukri, we use Vayam, and be it LinkedIn, they will give you predictive analysis. And in-house also, a lot of predictive analysis have come. For example, we will have a system which will tell how likely is Ishmeet to leave the organization, and why will Ishmeet leave. So there are a lot of variables around Ishmeet. What is Ishmeet's holiday pattern? What is Ishmeet's grievance pattern? What is Ishmeet's rating pattern? What is the pulse score Ishmeet is giving? So many variables are there. Sitting over there without even meeting Ishmeet, if I am an HR professional, I can at least sense that, okay, this is what data is saying. But can you rely on that? No. It will give me a sense. I will go and speak to Ishmeet again. But it will give me a prediction that X percentage of my population, I see they are at risk. Same is for the candidates as well. This is my pool. Looking at the switch patterns and all of that, this is highly likely the person is will accept my offer or will meet my JD. There is very basic thing which has started coming up, right? Percentage profile match, which will come up. Abhi usme kya hai? The candidates have found the cheat code. You know how people prepare CVs now? They look at the JD first and then the CV comes. It is not the other way around. So they will look at the JD. Okay, these are the things. So they will edit their CV. And then, of course, your best friend ChatGPT is now there. You put in 5 lines. Instead of 5, it will give you 50 lines. So there is a cheat code over there as well. But these are the things which are good. Which are helping everybody use their time wisely. So the time utilization has improved, right? Again, it is the trust in the system which is increasing day by day. That will only come after 2-3 years when we look at the data. How much of my hiring through this was on point? That is where it has to be continuous monitoring. So these were, couple of examples I could think of, which we are using and we deal with in day-to-day life.
Great. Thank you, Sumit, for your insights. Ishmeet, over to you. From your experience, what has been the most surprising impact of advanced analytics on recruiting practices?
Fantastic. I think Sumit has already given the TA take on it, so I'll give a little bit of a branding take here, right? Think back to some of the ads that you've personally seen, for example, Sarpajit. One ad, that kind of people often come to me and say that, okay, I really resonated with this ad, is one of those Nike just do it kind of ads, right? Those are very popular. And there is psychology behind why something like that works. They'll show you various examples of people coming, overcoming difficulty and, then saying, if something stops you, don't let it, just do it. And you see that. And intrinsically, you also think that, hey, I was also going through difficult time and, I did this and I've just done it. So there's a hope, there is a relatability essentially. And that's essentially what works in the branding and marketing world. Now, programmatic advertising or data or advanced analytics has taken this same concept to the next level essentially. So now if you go on an e-commerce channel, it knows everything about you. You are completely profiled, right? It knows how many people are there in your family. It knows who do you shop for this time to this time of the day, or do I shop for another person? It knows your anniversary. It is able to give you suggestions that you can relate to, that you really wanted. So it's customized ads essentially hitting you nowadays, right? And that's what makes that purchase decision so magical for you. Hey, I was thinking about this trip to Manali and I was just shown up. Let me just go ahead and do it. Right? And employer branding essentially, or recruitment marketing, is just following those same patterns, right? That consumer branding has been doing for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So now, even within TA, what has really surprised me over, let's say the last 2 to 3 years is that even candidates are profiled to the last end. So I know that this is exactly what I need to say to this particular candidate to be able to convert, them, or to make them like my organization a little bit more. So the days of just put an ad in the newspaper, say the same thing to everyone are gone. It's the day of customized marketing. How I show up to a person in tech is very different from how I show up to a person in supply chain, for example, right? So advanced analytics has given me the ability to profile this particular candidate from a CV or from their LinkedIn profile or from the information that they've put on Instahyre as well, right? For example, so I'm able to do this, and then with the coming in of ChatGPT and just generative AI, now I don't even have to put a person to do the communication with them, right? So the model itself has determined that this is what this person is going to like. It's going to go through your profile. It's going to find out, these were the conferences that you spoke at, and send you an automated message saying, from a recruiter essentially, saying that, hey, I heard that I really loved what you said about this topic. Why don't you explore an opportunity with us? So the degree of personalization, that a model or that data can give you has really fascinated me over the last 2 3 years. It's completely changing how we show up as organizations in front of candidates.
Okay, great. So continuing with you, Ishmeet, for the next question, which is the last one of the main set. So, what is one achievement you would like to share with our audience today? It could be from your personal or professional experience.
Hmm. I think it's right here. So when I came into Flipkart, I think one of the things that Flipkart was at that time of its development was that it meant a lot of different things, or it said a lot of different messages which were not very, very coherent. So I had essentially come into the organization to design an employee value proposition to very clearly say what does Flipkart stand for as a candidate, as an employer, right? So I think that being able to do the end-to-end research to really understand what the organization is, speaking to our leaders, building it out as a campaign, embedding it in all of our practices, to make sure that what I say to a candidate before they get hired, and then once they join the organization, making sure that they experience the same exact things over and over again, is been essentially the life's work, and a big achievement for me personally, on the professional front. So I think, and over there, I'm also going into that data overload space, right? I think that's where doing things with a data oriented mindset really also helped us. So we were able to do it in a much more democratic sort of way, take people's opinions, select statements or select lines which more people say agree. Why are they saying something? Each word was sort of micro analyzed on what emotion does it generate. So over there, for example, data was good, but data, of course, can also lead to analysis paralysis for sure. You just sit on decisions because one data point that you expected to say one thing is not saying that, and now you just can't figure out, do I change that data, do I change the input? All of those things take time as well, but I think that was the achievement.
Lovely. Great, Ishmeet. So, coming to Sumit. So, Sumit, what is one achievement you would like to share with our audience today? And it could be from your personal or professional experience.
Okay, I mean, see, I've shared my life journey. I'm very grateful to be where I am. That's number one. Number two, see, what personally all of us have seen is the recruitment playing field has changed in last 3-4 years. Right. If I go back, remember my first job, be it lateral hiring or campus, it was like paper, pen, phone. There was used to be a landline on table. You would call the person, and you can do only 5 calls. If you have to hire, you can only visit 10 campuses. Right. That's about it. what happened suddenly? Thanks, and COVID happened to be a blessing in disguise. Technology came up very strong in this field. Because you cannot not have interviews happening, right? Zoom used to exist, but nobody was gaga about Zoom, right? We could then interview anywhere from sitting anywhere, anybody we can interview.
Yeah.
What as an organization we did, of course, this was my campus stint when I was heading campus. We said, why do we have to restrict ourselves to only 10, 20 campuses? Now YouTube has emerged to be the biggest university. A person sitting in a Haringhatta in West Bengal could be a brilliant coder. Why do we restrict that person just because that person is not from, let's say, a good E school or a premier B school, right? Does not mean that we eliminate that person. We are not also saying that that person would be the right person. But what we were saying was we want to give everybody a chance. That is where we democratized the entire hiring piece. We opened our events to entire country. We got registrations in lakhs and lakhs, right? And while the selection at the end of the day, it is merit. The big things we talk about, inclusion, diversity, all of that, right? It is being inclusive, giving a chance to everybody. So that is the democratization of the entire hiring which we followed. Was, I feel, that one was the best achievements of my life so far. But it did not stop there. Now then comes your data, right? Which we are saying that it has a flip side. It is over data. But the candidates who appeared for my, let's say, entry level event in 2019, we are in 2024 now. At that time, we got their details, their email ID, their phone numbers, their XYZ contact numbers and all of that. That data is there with me, safe.
Okay.
Now, they are 5 years experience somewhere. Who are they now? They are my potential talent pool for my SD2 talent. Had I not collected the data, had they not filled in that form, I would have to go to all of that. So that data which we got right is a gold mine for us. And that is where you continuously engage with the talent, right? So that's how the data helps. At the same time, coming back to overload, we should not be asking irrelevant details, right? I mean, that's a different thing, that it creates bias and all of that. But if you're sharing the right data, right time, especially with the recruiter, right, it might come handy. It never goes into trash. It would be stored in some file somewhere. It would get looked at. So that's how the entire hiring piece has changed for me as well.
Great. So we move on to the next section. Sumit, so I have a question for you. What suggestions do you have for improved regulatory controls while implementing data-driven recruitment?
Okay. See, I have spoken about this in my previous thing, right? If we have to go there, first thing is we have to eliminate the bias. I mean, there is too much of dependence on historical data. And the kind of data we feed in, right, there has to be a diversification of that. It should not be throwing results which are emerging as a pattern. For example, I'll give you an example. If I feed in the data for my last 1 year, this year, because of XYZ reasons, we ended up hiring person from X industry. Let's say e-commerce industry. What would data AI feel? Okay, e-commerce is the best match, and that is the CVs which I should be sharing with this thing, which is not the right thing. I mean, you have your FMCG, your consulting and all of that, because an engineer does the same work. E-commerce brings in the domain expertise, but that is okay. That can be taught and trained. The core skill set of an engineer is programming languages, problem solving, DSA and all of that. That bias we have to remove. Because if you're feeding in historical data, we have to train the system in the right way. And at the same time, the users. AI, to start it, we need users who are the end users of that. Educating them is very important. Nobody has time. You can just directly, okay, just write something, the CV will come. But a recruiter, a hiring manager should be well educated on, okay, what are the algorithms we have tried to put in the system? Why are the results coming? How are the results coming? So that they can bring in HI as well, their human intelligence, along with artificial intelligence. These are the things we don't have to rush towards it, right? We are not going to conclude offer letters in one day. That is never going to happen.
Hmm.
Recruitment itself is a decision change for or a life changing event for any candidate as well. We are still in a phase where we have 30-day, 60-day, 90-day notice periods, unlike Western countries where it is 7 days, right?
Hmm.
When somebody's changing a job in our country, it is a well thought through decision. So AI will enable all of that. It will shorten the process, but we don't have to rush towards things. Everybody should be well educated, and when it comes to biases in terms of this thing, there should be diversity over there.
Great. Thank you, Sumit, for your answer. Ishmeet, so the next question for you is, so this is for the candidates side of it. So what information should candidates be aware of regarding how their data is being used during the recruitment process?
Okay. Okay. Let me try and make this point-wise logical answer. Uh, See, so the first thing that you should do as a candidate is take time and be conscious about the data that you are sharing, right? Uh, that often gets lost in your desperation to apply for that dream job, for example, right? So take that time, think about, if you really care about that data, just spend some time to think about it. Now, what you should be aware of essentially should be what kind of data are you sharing. Am I sharing only my name, my LinkedIn profile, my phone number? Is that really necessary? My email ID, my personal email ID. So just be careful of what you are sharing. First of all, that's something that you should know, that when, for example, let's say you apply for a job on LinkedIn and Instahyre, what is the data that's getting shared to the company that you are applying to? That is one thing. Second is, as I was talking about earlier, what is the purpose? Why that data is being asked. That should be very clear to you. So, is my LinkedIn profile, for example, being asked to just verify my experience? Then, in that case, I should know the experience over there. Is it correct? Because if a model is going to analyze it and that information doesn't match, I am at a loss. So, I should know what exactly is the purpose for which the organization is collecting that data. The third thing I should know is what will the organization do with the data essentially, right? So, for example, a lot of times you may share data with an organization post offer, right? And it's used for background verification. I should know why, I'm sharing a PAN card or an Aadhaar card, or whatever other details that I'm share. We should understand how or who is going to use this data. Does it stay in the organization? Is it shared with third parties? Am I going to start getting calls from other portals tomorrow? Know that very, very clearly. Another two things that typically apply to data, and you'll find this if you read a lot into the GDPR space, which marketing people always do because they're sitting on tons of data, is data sharing laws. Who is this data going to get shared with? So often, when you apply to a particular organization, for example, if you were to do that for Flipkart, at the end of the form, you would see it mentioned very clearly that this data stays confidential, is not shared with any third parties, or this data will be deleted in so and so days. So all of those information, make sure that you look out for it. And finally, one of the things that that you could possibly ask for is also the ability that, can I ask the organization to delete the data if I don't want to opt in? So my candidature has ended. I have finished my process. Maybe I've not been selected. If I don't want my data to be sitting in the system, can I put that request into the recruiter? Those, are some of the things that you should be aware of that are your rights. And if you feel that those are questions important to you, you can probably ask them at any part in the recruitment process.
Great. So let's move on to the next part, which is a very fun part, which is the rapid fire round. And I would like to have one, like, who wants to start off first? Like, I will start the questions then. Sumit or Ishmeet?
Go for it, Sumit.
Okay, I'll go for it.
Okay.
You have been told.
Great. So let's start. Sumit, what is your favorite thing about Bangalore?
Of course, the beer. Not the weather. Beer is best in Bangalore.
Choose one, Zomato or Swiggy?
Flipkart quick.
Okay. If you could change one thing about your school life, what would it be?
Uh, I mean, I wish I was a bit taller. I mean, I still remember I had to stand the first number in my assembly because I was the shortest in the class. It was very embarrassing all the time, just right in the face of the principal. So if it all till 10th, I wish I was a bit taller. With God's grace, I'm fine now. But I mean, that was like, I was like, I'll never grow tall.
Okay. Great. What is one tech innovation that doesn't exist but you wish existed now?
It's a good one. Uh, Getting the work done without working.
Okay. uh, Apple iPhones or Android phones?
Android phones, any day. I'm not an Apple fan. Ishmeet curses me a lot. Like, why are you not on Apple? Ishmeet is like totally certified Apple. This thing, you name Apple, he will have that product with him. So that's how it is. I'm a totally Android fan, always.
Okay. Okay. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
See, I'm a big foodie. If I can create food the way I want, like that magic pencil was there. No, I don't know if people remember that shakalaka boom boom. I mean, I have seen many dreams. I wish I had that pencil. I draw something and I eat it and all of that. So that would be the food superpower I would want to have.
Great. If you could be the president of any country for 24 hours, which one would you choose and why? Which country would you choose and why? Yes.
Uh, I mean, not India, because in India the president position is not that powerful, and of course the United States. I mean, that is like you are the king of the world sort of a feeling, right? That is, it is very powerful as we speak, and president as is the world leader. He or she is the world leader of US. So that's where I'll use US.
Lovely. So, Ishmeet, over to you now. Thank you, Sumit,
Yes.
for the great answers. I loved it. Loved the first answer very much. So, let's start with Ishmeet. What is your favorite thing about your hometown?
Oh, food for sure.
Okay. What would you choose, Zomato or Swiggy?
Again, my diplomatic answer would be Flipkart Quick, but I think, yeah, Zomato probably. Fun branding.
Okay. If you could have lunch with one influential figure, who would it be and what would you ask?
Hmm. I think influential figure would be my CEO, and I would ask him IPO kab aa raha
Okay. What is one tech innovation that doesn't exist but you wish existed now?
hai? I think if we can make 0 calorie food so that I can keep eating without putting on any calories.
uh, what hobby do you wish you had more time for? What hobby do you wish you had more time for?
I think writing.
Okay.
That's been a hobby from childhood. I would like to resurrect my blog and write about Indian Idol again.
uh, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? What would be?
Being able to read minds so that I am better prepared for what I need to do in my next presentation.
Okay. The last question is similar to Sumit. If you could be the president of any country for 24 hours, which one would you choose and why?
I think, okay, I'll give you a weird answer. It'll be South Korea, because I
Okay.
really want to figure out how they are creating things after things that are just becoming so successful in the world, whether it's TV shows or makeup or just, I would like to own that empire for a day.
Lovely. That brings us to the end of the discussion. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Ishmeet, for joining in, taking time out of your busy schedule and joining in. Uh, I had a lovely discussion with all of you guys. Hopefully, you had a lovely time with me also. Thank you, Sumit. Thank you, Ishmeet. Uh, Great to have you.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
Rabji.
Thanks, Abhijit.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ishmeet.
everyone.
Thanks, Joshi. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.